My name is Genevieve, and at 32 years old, I've achieved everything I once dreamed of. A thriving business, a loving husband who's a successful surgeon, and finally, after 5 years of heartbreaking fertility treatments, a baby girl on the way. I thought inviting my estranged family to the baby shower at our gated home might heal old wounds. I never imagined my own mother would betray me so completely. When I confronted her, she sneered those words I'll never forget. Before I continue my story, let me know where you're watching from, hit subscribe, and join me to see how one phone call changed everything. I grew up in Mapleton, a picturesque but gossipy town where appearances mattered more than reality. My mother, Eleanor, was the undisputed queen of social politics, serving on every community board and charity committee. Our modest 2-story home was always immaculate, ready for impromptu visits from her social circle. Nothing mattered more to her than our family reputation. My younger sister Amanda was born when I was 5, and from the beginning she was the golden child. With her naturally blonde curls and outgoing personality, she effortlessly became the center of attention. I was the opposite. Bookish serious, with straight brown hair that never cooperated, I preferred the company of novels to people. My father Thomas worked as an accountant at the local bank. He was kind but passive, surrendering all family decisions to my mother to avoid conflict. He'd retreat to his workshop in the garage, when tensions rose crafting beautiful wooden furniture, while my mother shaped our family narrative. School became my sanctuary. While Amanda was winning beauty pageants and cheerleading competitions, I was winning academic scholarships. My mother attended every one of Amanda's events camera in hand, but found excuses to miss my debate tournaments and academic award ceremonies. Being smart is nice, Genevieve, she'd say, but it doesn't help you make meaningful connections. Look at Amanda, everyone loves her. By high school, the divide had grown even wider. Amanda dated the football quarterback, while I worked part-time at the local bookstore, saving every dollar for college. When I received a partial scholarship to a prestigious business school across the country, my mother's reaction was tepid at best. So far away, what about a nice state school near home? Amanda will miss you terribly. But I recognized the opportunity for what it was. Freedom. I left for college and rarely returned except for major holidays. Those visits grew increasingly strained as I pursued my career while Amanda dropped out of community college to find herself. After graduation, I started a small marketing consultancy that gradually grew into a respected firm with major clients. At a business conference in Chicago, I met James, a talented surgeon with kind eyes and a brilliant mind. Our connection was immediate and profound. Within a year, we were married in a small ceremony that my family attended with visibly strained smiles. Such an unusual venue, my mother commented about the botanical garden we'd chosen. And your dress is so modern. James and I bought a beautiful home in an upscale neighborhood of Boston, far from Mapleton. We wanted children right away, but month after month, the pregnancy tests showed a single devastating line. After 2 years of trying naturally, we consulted fertility specialists. The next 3 years were a blur of hormone injections, failed IVF cycles, and crushing disappointment. Through it all, my family remained emotionally distant. My mother would occasionally call, but conversations were superficial, focused on Amanda's latest job or boyfriend. When I shared our fertility struggles, my mother's response was characteristically dismissive. Well, dear, you did wait quite a while to start trying. Career women often have these problems. Our contact dwindled to holiday phone calls and obligatory birthday messages. James's family, though living across the country, provided more emotional support than my own relatives ever did. When I finally saw those 2 pink lines on the pregnancy test, I sobbed with joy. James and I had nearly given up hope. The first trimester was terrifying as I feared losing the miracle growing inside me. But as my belly grew and the baby girl in ultrasound images became more distinct, I allowed myself to believe in this new chapter. Something about impending motherhood made me long for family reconciliation. Despite James's concerns, I decided to reach out. Perhaps my mother could offer maternal guidance now that I was becoming a mother myself. Perhaps Amanda and I could rebuild our sisterhood as I prepared for my daughter's arrival. Perhaps I was setting myself up for another heartbreak. The day I confirmed my pregnancy was the happiest of my life. After so many years of disappointment, James and I were finally going to be parents. We sat on our bathroom floor, holding each other and crying tears of joy as we stared at the positive test. We did it. Jen, James whispered, his voice thick with emotion. Our miracle is happening. The following months were filled with cautious excitement. Each doctor's appointment confirmed our baby girl was developing perfectly. We converted the guest room nearest our bedroom into a nursery painting, the walls a soft sage green, and assembling furniture on weekends. James insisted on building the crib himself, channeling my father's woodworking talents. "I want our daughter to sleep in something made with love," he explained as he sanded each piece to perfect smoothness. By my 7th month, we had created a peaceful sanctuary filled with books, stuffed animals, and a handcrafted rocking chair. The closet was organized with tiny clothes, eyes sorted by size and season. Everything was ready except for one thing: family. "I think I should invite my parents and Amanda to a baby shower," I told James one evening as we sat on the nursery floor folding onesies. His hands paused mid-fold. "Are you sure, Jen, they haven't exactly been supportive?" "This is different," I insisted. "This is their granddaughter, their niece. Maybe this is the bridge we need." After much discussion, we decided I would host the shower myself at our home, rather than having friends arrange it. This way, I could control every aspect of the gathering and ensure my family would be comfortable. When I called my mother to extend the invitation, her enthusiasm surprised me. "A baby shower. How wonderful. Of course we'll be there. Amanda will be so excited too. We've all been talking about how we need to reconnect before the baby arrives." Her immediate acceptance and warm tone caught me off guard. For years, she had been politely disinterested in my life. Now she was asking detailed questions about the shower date guest list and registry. "Would you like me to bring anything? Help with decorations?" she offered. "No need, Mom. Everything's taken care of. I just want you all to come and celebrate with us." After hanging up, I felt a wave of hopeful anticipation. Maybe my pregnancy had softened her heart. Maybe she was ready to be a doting grandmother. James remained skeptical. "Just keep your expectations realistic," he cautioned. "People don't change overnight." I threw myself into preparations, determined to create a perfect event. I hired a caterer known for elegant tea sandwiches and petit fours, my mother's favourites. I ordered custom decorations in soft pinks and golds, colours Amanda had always preferred. I planned games that weren't too cheesy and selected sophisticated prizes. The guest list included my closest friends, colleagues, neighbours, and James's family members who could make the trip. About 30 people in total, an intimate gathering where my family wouldn't feel overwhelmed by strangers. 2 weeks before the event, my mother called with an unexpected request. "Genevieve, I was wondering if Amanda could bring her boyfriend Tyler. They're quite serious now and it would mean a lot to her." I had never met Tyler, but including him seemed like a small concession to maintain harmony. "Of course, Mom, Tyler is welcome." "Wonderful, and is it all right if we arrive the day before? It's such a long drive and we'd love to have some family time before the shower." Again, I agreed readily, ignoring the flutter of anxiety in my chest. A whole day with my family before the shower would be challenging, but perhaps it would ease tensions before the main event. As the shower approached, I found myself constantly checking my phone for messages from my mother. She texted frequently with questions about our home's guest accommodations and local attractions they might visit. Nothing about the baby or my health. The day before their arrival, she called again. "Genevieve, dear, I just wanted to make sure your house has enough parking. We might need a bit more space than you expected. We have a circular driveway that fits several cars, Mom. How many are you bringing?" "Oh, just wondering." "And the shower starts at 2, correct, not 1. I confirmed the timing, then spent hours doing final preparations. The house was spotless guest rooms, perfectly appointed, gift table arranged in the living room. Everything was ready for the reconciliation I so desperately wanted. That night, I felt the baby kick particularly hard, as if she sensed my anxiety. James held me close in bed, his hand resting protectively on my belly. "Remember," he whispered, "whatever happens, we have everything that matters right here." I nodded against his chest, hoping he was wrong about my family, but grateful for his unwavering support if he wasn't. My parents and Amanda arrived at precisely 4 o'clock the afternoon before the shower. I stood on our front porch, one hand cradling my baby bump, watching their modest sedan pull into our circular driveway. My heart pounded with nervous anticipation. My mother emerged first, surveying our home with barely concealed appraisal. She wore a tailored beige pantsuit that looked new, her hair freshly coloured and styled. "Genevieve," she called, walking briskly toward me. "The house is certainly substantial." She air-kissed my cheeks, barely making contact, then stepped back to examine my pregnant figure. "You're carrying quite low. Must be uncomfortable." Before I could respond, Amanda bounced up the steps, looking like she'd stepped out of a fashion magazine in a floral sundress and designer sandals I knew she couldn't afford on her retail salary. "Genny, look at you, all maternal and glowing." She hugged me with exaggerated care. "I can't believe my big sister is having a baby." My father approached last, carrying their luggage. His smile seemed genuinely warm as he set down the bags to embrace me properly. "You look beautiful, sweetheart," he said softly. "Motherhood suits you." James came out to help with the bags and greet everyone. The polite small talk continued as we showed them to their rooms. My mother immediately began inspecting everything. Italian marble in the guest bathroom. My, how extravagant. Her tone made it sound like a criticism rather than a compliment. "These windows must be impossible to clean," she noted, running a finger along a perfectly spotless sill. Dinner that evening was a tense affair, despite the beautiful meal James and I had prepared. My mother dominated the conversation with updates about Mapleton residents I barely remembered. Amanda chimed in with anecdotes about her job at a boutique clothing store, each story somehow highlighting how popular and beloved she was by customers. And then Mrs. Hamilton said I was the only person who ever helped her find jeans that actually flattered her figure. She brings me chocolates every time she visits now. I noticed my parents exchanged several meaningful glances throughout the meal, and my mother checked her phone repeatedly. "Are you expecting a call, Mum?" I finally asked. "Oh no, dear. Just checking the time." She smiled tightly. "Actually, I should mention that Tyler will be joining us tomorrow morning. He couldn't get away from work today, but he's driving up overnight." This was different from our original arrangement, but I nodded agreeably. "That's fine. The guest room on the 3rd floor is available for him." "Oh, he can stay with Amanda," my mother said dismissively. I saw James stiffen beside me. We had specifically placed Amanda in a room with a single bed, assuming she would be alone. "Actually, we have separate rooms prepared," I said firmly. "It's more comfortable that way." My mother looked affronted. "Genevieve, they're adults. Don't be prudish." Before an argument could develop, my father changed the subject. "James, Genevieve mentioned you built some of the nursery furniture yourself. I'd love to see your workshop if you have one." Grateful for the diversion, James led my father to his workshop in the converted garage, while Amanda helped me clear the table. My mother insisted on supervising, rather than helping, critiquing our kitchen organization as she sipped her wine. After dinner, we gathered in the living room, where I had photo albums of the ultrasounds and nursery development ready to share. My mother glanced at them briefly before launching into a detailed account of Amanda's recent accomplishments. "She's been approached about a management position, you know. Everyone recognizes her people skills." When Tyler came up in conversation, my parents became animated in a way they hadn't been when discussing my baby. "He's in financial services," my mother gushed. "Such a stable career. His family has been in New England for generations." "What firm does he work for?" James asked. My mother and Amanda exchanged a quick glance. "It's a boutique investment firm, very exclusive." Later, as everyone was heading to bed, I overheard my mother on the phone in the hallway speaking in hushed tones. "Yes, everything's set. We'll need to make some changes tomorrow morning before guests arrive." No, she has no idea. Trust me, it will be perfect. When I rounded the corner, she quickly ended the call. "Who were you talking to, Mum?" I asked directly. "Just checking in with a neighbour about collecting our mail," she replied smoothly. "Nothing important." Her explanation seemed reasonable, but the knot in my stomach tightened. Something felt off about the whole evening, about their presence in our home. After my family retired to their rooms, I found James in our bedroom, already in bed with a medical journal. "Is it just me?" I whispered, sitting beside him. "Or are they acting strangely?" He set down his reading. "Not just you. They're definitely up to something. Maybe I'm being paranoid. Maybe they're just uncomfortable in our home." James took my hand. "Jen, I know you want this reconciliation to work, but please don't ignore your instincts. Something's not right." I nodded reluctantly. "Let's just get through tomorrow. The shower will be full of our friends. What could possibly go wrong with 30 people watching?" As I tried to sleep that night, the baby kicked restlessly, matching my own unease. I stared at the ceiling, replaying the strange moments from the evening, trying to decipher what my mother might be planning. Whatever it was, I wasn't prepared for the reality that would unfold the next day. I woke early the morning of the shower, my night having been restless at best. The excitement of the day ahead mixed with lingering anxiety about my family's behaviour. Through our bedroom window, I could see it would be a perfect spring day with clear blue skies. Perhaps the weather was a good omen. The caterers weren't due until noon, giving me several hours to make final preparations. I dressed in comfortable clothes, saving my pale pink maternity dress for the actual event, and headed downstairs for breakfast. To my surprise, my mother and Amanda were already in the living room, surrounded by shopping bags and unfamiliar decorations. White and silver items were being unpacked alongside the pink and gold decorations I had carefully selected. "What's going on?" I asked, taking in the scene. "Where did all this come from?" My mother looked up with a bright smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Good morning, darling. We thought we'd help spruce things up a bit. The decorations you had were nice, but we brought some additional items to really elevate the event." I stepped closer, examining what they were unpacking. Alongside my baby shower decorations were items that seemed oddly formal and completely off-theme. Crystal champagne flutes, silver confetti, white roses, and a banner that was half hidden in tissue paper. "Mom, the shower has a specific theme and colour scheme. These don't match at all." Amanda rolled her eyes. "Don't be so controlling, Jenny. Mom has an amazing eye for these things. Trust us, it will look so much better this way." Before I could respond, the doorbell rang. Amanda jumped up. "That must be Tyler, I'll get it." She rushed to the door and returned moments later with a tall, conventionally handsome man in his late 20s. He had the polished look of someone who spent significant time on his appearance, from his carefully styled hair to his expensive casual wear. "You must be Genevieve," he said with practiced charm, extending his hand. "Congratulations on the baby. Amanda has told me so much about you." I shook his hand, noting his overly firm grip. "Nice to meet you, Tyler. Welcome to our home." My mother was instantly at his side, fussing over him like royalty. "Tyler, darling, was the drive terrible? You must be exhausted. Let me get you some coffee." She ushered him toward the kitchen, shooting Amanda a meaningful look over her shoulder. James came downstairs, then taking in the scene with suspicion. "What's with all the new decorations?" he whispered as he reached my side. "Apparently my mother is improving things," I replied under my breath. We followed the others to the kitchen, where my mother was now instructing James's mother, who had arrived the previous evening, on the proper way to brew coffee. Poor Martha, who had been a barista through her college years, was visibly restraining herself from responding. As we all gathered for breakfast, I noticed several large coolers had appeared in the corner of the kitchen. "What's in those?" I asked, pointing. "Just some additional refreshments," my mother replied vaguely. "The caterer's selection seemed a bit limited." James frowned. "We specifically chose those menu items after careful consideration." "Well," my mother said dismissively, "some of us have more experience with proper entertaining." The doorbell rang again, and my father went to answer it. He returned with two men carrying boxes labelled Celestial Events Catering, a company I had never heard of, let alone hired. "What is this?" I demanded, my patience finally breaking. "Mum, what have you done?" She waved a hand dismissively. "I took the liberty of supplementing your arrangements. That little catering company you hired is fine for a casual lunch, but this is a significant family event." The delivery men began unloading bottles of expensive champagne and platters of hors d'oeuvres onto our kitchen counters. One of them handed my mother a receipt to sign. "Mum," I exclaimed, my voice rising, "I spent weeks planning this shower. The caterer is bringing exactly what we selected. We don't need all this." She signed the receipt with a flourish. "Genevieve, dear, calm down. Think of the baby. Stress isn't good for her." Using my pregnancy against me was the final straw. I grabbed the half-unpacked banner from the living room and pulled it open. "Congratulations, Amanda and Tyler," it read in elegant silver script. My blood ran cold. "What is this?" Amanda at least had the decency to look uncomfortable. My mother, however, simply sighed as if I were being difficult. "We thought we'd make the day extra special by sharing some happy news of our own," she explained. "Tyler proposed to Amanda last week. Isn't that wonderful?" I stared at her in disbelief. "You're hijacking my baby shower for an engagement announcement." "Not hijacking, darling, enhancing. 2 celebrations are better than 1, don't you think?" Behind me, James made a noise somewhere between a cough and a growl. "Eleanor, this is completely inappropriate. Today is about Genevieve and our baby." My mother's expression hardened. "James, while I appreciate your input, this is a family matter." "I am family," he replied coldly. The doorbell rang again. It wasn't yet noon, far too early for the actual guests to arrive. James went to answer, returning with a confused-looking woman. "Genevieve, there's a Maggie Johnston here. Says she's your mother's friend from Mapleton." My heart sank. "The shower doesn't start until 2, Maggie." The woman looked embarrassed. "Oh, I know, dear. Eleanor asked several of us to come early to help set up." Behind her, I could see more cars pulling into our driveway. My mother had invited her own guests to arrive 2 hours early, and from the looks of it, far more than I had been told about. "Mum," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, How many people did you invite? She smiled brightly. Just a few close friends who've known our family for years. They're all dying to see you again, and to congratulate Amanda, of course. Within 30 minutes, our home was filled with my mother's friends and distant relatives I barely recognized. The decorations had been completely rearranged with my carefully chosen baby items pushed aside in favor of white and silver engagement-themed decor. The champagne was flowing freely, and Tyler was the center of attention, charming everyone with practiced ease. I stood in the corner of my own living room, watching in stunned disbelief as my baby shower transformed into my sister's engagement party before my eyes. When the caterer I had hired arrived, my mother intercepted them, directing them to set up their food alongside the elaborate spread she had ordered. "We'll need to make some adjustments," I heard her instruct them. The event has evolved a bit. At 1:30, with the actual invited guests due to arrive soon, my mother gathered everyone's attention by clinking a champagne flute. "Thank you all for coming to this special day," she announced. "As you know, Genevieve is expecting her first child, which is lovely. But we have another wonderful announcement to make." She gestured for Amanda and Tyler to join her. "My beautiful daughter Amanda and her boyfriend Tyler are engaged to be married." The crowd erupted in applause as Tyler dramatically dropped to one knee and presented Amanda with a ring, despite the fact that they were supposedly already engaged. It was clearly a staged moment for the benefit of the audience. "We wanted to share this moment with our closest friends and family," Amanda gushed, flashing her ring. "And what better time than when we're all together to celebrate new beginnings?" I felt physically ill. As my actual guests began to arrive, they were greeted by a scene that looked nothing like the baby shower they had been invited to. Confused glances were cast my way as they tried to make sense of the engagement decorations and the cluster of strangers dominating the event. When I finally managed to pull my mother aside, my hands were shaking with anger and hurt. "How could you do this?" I demanded. "This day was supposed to be about my baby, your grandchild." She looked at me with cold eyes. "Genevieve, you've always been so dramatic. We're simply making the most of having family together. Amanda deserves her moment too." "This was my moment," I whispered. "After everything James and I went through to have this baby today was meant to celebrate that miracle." My mother's face hardened. "You've had plenty of attention with your big career and your expensive house. You think throwing money around makes you one of us. This family is about sharing, not showing off." Her words struck me like physical blows. After years of dismissing my achievements and minimizing my struggles, she was now accusing me of being the selfish one. As I stood there speechless with hurt, Amanda approached with Tyler in tow, her engagement ring prominently displayed. "Isn't this amazing, Jenny? Now both of us have something special to celebrate." I looked at my sister, seeing for the first time how she had been shaped by our mother's favoritism into someone who truly believed this behavior was acceptable. It wasn't entirely her fault, but at 30 years old, she was old enough to know better. "Congratulations," I managed to say before walking away to find James. The shower I had meticulously planned was now unrecognizable, transformed into a celebration for someone else entirely, and there was nothing I could do to reclaim it. As the event progressed, I moved through my own home like a ghost, watching guests mingle in confused clusters. My friends and colleagues stayed near me, offering sympathetic glances and supportive touches as they witnessed the surreal hijacking of my baby shower. My mother's friends gravitated toward Amanda and Tyler, exclaiming over the engagement ring and discussing wedding plans. The division was painfully obvious. One of my co-workers, Diane, squeezed my hand and whispered, "This is the most bizarre thing I've ever seen. Are you okay?" I nodded mechanically beyond words at that point. My carefully planned games and activities for celebrating the baby were completely forgotten as Amanda became the center of attention. She reveled in it, posing for photos with the engagement banner, while my mother beamed proudly beside her. I tried to redirect attention to the actual purpose of the gathering by announcing it was time to play a baby shower game, but my mother smoothly intercepted. "Before we do that, I think we should toast the happy couple," she announced, raising her champagne flute. "Amanda has waited for the perfect man, and in Tyler, she's found someone truly worthy of our family." The implicit comparison to my own choice of husband wasn't lost on anyone. James's jaw tightened beside me, his hand protectively covering mine. "To Amanda and Tyler," my mother continued, "who are starting their journey together the right way with family at the center of everything." Another barb suggesting that James and I had somehow done things incorrectly by building our lives independently. Most of the guests raised their glasses awkwardly, caught between respecting their hostess and recognizing the inappropriate nature of the toast. My mother then launched into a speech about Amanda's wonderful qualities and how she'd always known her youngest daughter would create a proper family celebration when the time was right. Some people rush into things focused on careers and material success, she said, glancing pointedly in my direction. But Amanda understood that what matters most is connection and tradition. Each word was carefully chosen to criticize my life choices while elevating Amanda's. The familiar pattern of my childhood was playing out all over again, but now with an audience of 30 uncomfortable witnesses. I felt a wave of nausea that had nothing to do with my pregnancy. Excusing myself, I retreated to our bedroom, sinking onto the edge of the bed as tears threatened to spill over. How had I convinced myself that anything would be different? That my mother would suddenly value me after years of making it clear that I would always be second best? As I sat there, I overheard guests in the hallway below. Always been dramatic, that one, a woman who sounded like my mother's friend Judith commented. Everything has to be about her. Poor Amanda finally has something special, and Genevieve can't stand sharing the spotlight. Did you see that massive house, all that money, and still so desperate for attention? Another voice replied. Their words broke something inside me. After years of fertility treatments, the physical and emotional toll of IVF, and the careful planning of this shower to welcome our miracle baby, I was being painted as selfish for wanting the celebration to actually be about my child. James found me sitting motionless on our bed, tears streaming down my face. "Jen," he said softly, kneeling in front of me. "This is insane. We need to put a stop to it." "How?" I whispered. "They've completely taken over. Anything we do now will just make us look petty and difficult, exactly what my mother wants." James's expression hardened with anger I rarely saw from him. "This is our home. Your mother has no right to do this." He helped me to my feet, his medical training evident in the way he checked my pulse and breathing. "Your blood pressure is probably through the roof right now. This isn't good for you or the baby." "I'll be okay," I assured him, though I felt far from okay. "No," he said firmly. "You won't be not if we let this continue. I'm going to speak to your mother." Before I could stop him, James was striding downstairs, his normally gentle demeanor replaced with protective fury. I followed quickly, worried about a confrontation, but knowing it was inevitable. We found my mother in the kitchen, instructing the caterers on how the food should be arranged. James approached her directly, his voice low but intense. "Eleanor, this ends now. You were invited into our home as guests for Genevieve's baby shower. What you've done is incredibly disrespectful, not just to us, but to everyone who came to celebrate our child." My mother's eyes widened in affront. "James, I understand you're upset, but this is a family celebration. We're simply making it more meaningful by including Amanda's good news." "No," James said firmly. "You deliberately planned this to overshadow Genevieve's shower. You brought decorations, hired your own caterer, invited extra guests, and announced an engagement without discussing it with us. That's not making anything more meaningful. It's a hostile takeover." My mother's pleasant mask slipped, revealing the coldness beneath. "Don't be so dramatic. If Genevieve weren't so self-centered, she'd be happy for her sister. This has nothing to do with being happy for Amanda." I interjected, finding my voice at last. "This is about respect. You could have asked to share the news. You could have planned a separate event. Instead, you deliberately hijacked a day that was meant to be about your grandchild." "Grandchild?" My mother scoffed quietly. "As if you've ever cared about family. You left home the first chance you got, barely visit, and then expect us to drop everything for your shower. We're only here out of obligation." Her words hit me like a physical blow. Out of obligation. After all the years of seeking her approval, of hoping for reconciliation, the truth was finally spoken aloud. They didn't care about me or my baby. They were here to fulfill a social expectation while ensuring Amanda remained the true center of attention. In that moment, something broke and reformed inside me. A lifetime of seeking validation from someone incapable of giving it suddenly seemed like the most pointless pursuit imaginable. The baby kicked strongly, as if reminding me where my priorities should truly lie. I looked at my mother, seeing her clearly, perhaps for the first time. "If you're only here out of obligation, then you don't need to be here at all." I turned and walked away, leaving her sputtering in the kitchen. James followed me, concern and pride warring in his expression. "Are you okay?" he asked softly. I nodded, a strange calm settling over me. "Actually, I think I finally am. I walked through our crowded living room, a sense of clarity cutting through my earlier distress. My mother had shown her true colours in the cruelest way possible, but her actions had finally freed me from decades of seeking her approval. In our home office, I closed the door and pulled out my phone. With steady hands, I called my best friend Sophia, who had been unable to attend the shower due to her work as an investigative reporter for the local news station. "Soph," I said when she answered, "I need your help." "What's wrong?" she asked immediately, picking up on the tension in my voice. "Is it the baby?" "No, the baby's fine. It's my family." I quickly explained the situation, from my mother's takeover of the shower to the staged engagement announcement and her final revelation that they were only here out of obligation. Sophia was silent for a moment, then said with cold precision, "Those manipulative parasites. What do you need me to do?" "Can you come over and bring a few of your colleagues from the station? You want to put them on the news?" she asked, catching on immediately. "Not exactly, but I want them to know there are consequences to their behaviour. Can you be here in 10 minutes? "I'll be there in 5, Sophia promised, "and I'll bring reinforcements." After hanging up, I returned to the living room now with a plan forming. James caught my eye across the room and I gave him a small nod to let him know I was all right. With deliberate steps, I approached my mother, who was holding court among her friends, one arm around Amanda, as they discussed wedding venues. "Mum," I said calmly, "I need to speak with you privately." She looked annoyed at the interruption. "Can't it wait, dear? We're just getting to the exciting part of Amanda's plans." "No," I replied firmly. "It can't wait." Something in my tone must have registered because she excused herself with a forced smile and followed me to a quiet corner. "You have exactly 10 minutes, I told her, my voice steady and cold. "10 minutes for what?" she asked, confused. 10 minutes to end this engagement celebration and return this event to what it was supposed to be, a baby shower. My mother laughed dismissively. "Don't be ridiculous, Genevieve. Everyone's having a wonderful time. There's no reason to make a scene." 9 minutes now, I replied, checking my watch. "You can either announce that you made a mistake and this is actually a baby shower, or you can face the consequences." "Are you threatening me?" she asked, genuine surprise in her voice. In all our years of conflict, I had never stood up to her this directly. "I'm setting a boundary," I corrected. "This is my home, my event, and my child being celebrated. You have 8 minutes to respect that or leave." My mother's face hardened. "You always were stubborn. What exactly do you think you're going to do? Throw your own mother out. Everyone will see how selfish you truly are." 7 minutes, I replied calmly. She narrowed her eyes. "This is absurd. We're making the best of a gathering that frankly few people would have attended if it were just about your pregnancy. Amanda's engagement gives people an actual reason to celebrate." Her words were meant to wound, but they had lost their power. I simply checked my watch again. 6 minutes. Frustrated by my lack of reaction, my mother raised her voice slightly. "You think you're so superior with your big house and successful husband. You've always thought you were better than us. But money doesn't make you family, Genevieve. It doesn't buy belonging." 5 minutes, I said, unmoved. "What exactly do you think will happen in 5 minutes?" she demanded, her composure slipping. I smiled slightly. "I guess we'll find out." Leaving her fuming, I returned to mingling with my actual guests, accepting their sympathetic comments with newfound grace. The weight that had pressed on me for years was lifting with each passing minute. 4 minutes later, as my mother continued to ignore my ultimatum, I felt my phone vibrate. A text from Sophia. "We're outside your gate, 5 of us, ready when you are." I caught James's eye and nodded. He immediately moved to stand by the front windows, prepared for what would come next. As the final minute ticked away, I approached my mother once more. She was now helping Amanda show off her engagement ring to a cluster of admiring guests. "Time's up," I said quietly. My mother didn't even look at me. "Run along, Genevieve. The adults are talking." "As you wish," I replied, then walked calmly to the front door and opened it. Outside our gate, visible to everyone through our large front windows, were 3 news vans with their satellite dishes extended. Sophia stood with 4 of her colleagues, cameras and microphones ready. I pressed the button to open the electronic gate, and they drove onto our property. The reaction was immediate. My mother's friends, many of whom were prominent in local society circles, froze in horror at the sight of news cameras. My mother herself turned pale, her wine glass nearly slipping from her fingers. "Genevieve," she hissed, rushing toward me. "What have you done?" "I've invited some friends from the local news," I replied calmly. "They're doing a special interest story on family events. I thought Amanda would appreciate the coverage of her engagement. After all, she's always loved being the center of attention." The panic that crossed my mother's face was almost comical. "Are you insane? Do you have any idea what this could do to our reputation?" "I thought reputation didn't matter as much as family," I countered. "Isn't that what you've been saying all day?" As Sophia and her camera crew approached the front door, my mother grabbed my arm. "You have to stop them, now." "Why would I do that? I thought you wanted everyone to know about Amanda's engagement." "Not like this," she practically shrieked, all pretense of composure gone. Amanda rushed over her face, contorted with anger. "What did you do? Send them away?" "I can't," I replied calmly. "They're already here." Through the windows, we could all see several of my mother's friends making hasty exits toward the side of the house, clearly hoping to avoid being on camera. Some had public positions or marriages that wouldn't benefit from unexpected media attention. Tyler looked particularly panicked. "No cameras," he insisted. "No interviews." His extreme reaction raised immediate red flags. What was he hiding? My parents and Amanda were now in full crisis mode, arguing frantically about what to do. Their raised voices carried through the room, creating exactly the scene my mother had been so determined to avoid. "We need to leave, now." My father, usually so passive, was suddenly taking charge. "Through the back," my mother agreed. "Quickly before they start filming." As they scrambled to gather their things, the absurdity of the situation struck me. These people who had so callously dismissed my feelings and hijacked my baby shower were now literally running away rather than face minor public scrutiny. Sophia entered the house camera crew waiting outside as agreed. She hugged me loud enough for others to hear. "I can't believe they turned your baby shower into an engagement party. Wait until our viewers hear about this family drama." That was the final straw. My mother, father, Amanda, and Tyler fled through the back door, accompanied by the last of their invited guests. Their hurried exit was anything but dignified, with Amanda nearly tripping on her dress and my mother dropping her purse in her haste. Through the kitchen window, I watched them scrambling to their cars, arguing loudly all the way. "This is all your fault," Amanda screamed at my mother. "I told you we should have just had a separate party." "How was I supposed to know she'd call the news?" my mother shouted back. Their voices carried across the yard, the family that had been so concerned with appearances now creating the very public spectacle they had tried to avoid. As their cars peeled out of our back driveway, Sophia turned to me with a grin. "There aren't actually any cameras rolling, you know. We're just standing around looking official." I burst into unexpected laughter, the tension of the day finally breaking. "I know, but they don't." "Your mother's face," James chuckled, joining us. I've never seen anyone turn that shade of white so quickly. The remaining guests, all people who had actually been invited to celebrate our baby, gathered around us, breaking into spontaneous applause. That, my friend Diane declared, was the most satisfying thing I've ever witnessed. With my family and their entourage gone, we were able to salvage what remained of the shower. James and our friends quickly removed the engagement decorations, restoring the baby-themed items to their rightful places. The games I had planned were played, gifts were opened, and genuine joy filled our home. As Sophia and her colleagues joined the celebration, bringing the total guest count back to a comfortable number, I felt our baby kick strongly, as if expressing her approval. "I think she likes having the spotlight back," I told James, placing his hand on my belly. "Like mother, like daughter," he replied with a smile. "Standing up for themselves when it matters." 3 months after the baby shower disaster, our daughter Lily Elizabeth was born after an intense but ultimately uncomplicated labour. James wept as he held her for the first time, and I experienced a love so profound it made all the previous pain worthwhile. My parents and Amanda made no attempt to contact me during the remainder of my pregnancy. The silence was initially jarring after a lifetime of complicated entanglement, but gradually became peaceful. James's parents, however, were present and supportive, throughout Martha arriving a week before my due date to help prepare our home. "Family isn't always who you're born to," she told me quietly as we folded tiny onesies. "Sometimes it's who you choose." The wisdom of her words became increasingly clear as friends rallied around us, creating the supportive community I had always craved. Sophia became a fixture in our lives, appointed as Lily's godmother at her christening. My colleague Diane organised a meal train for the first month after Lily's birth, ensuring we had home-cooked food every evening. The day we brought Lily home from the hospital, I found a small package on our doorstep. Inside was a handcrafted wooden music box and a note in my father's handwriting for my granddaughter. "I'm sorry I wasn't brave enough to be the father you deserved. I hope someday to meet her. With love, Dad." The gesture brought unexpected tears. Unlike my mother's manipulations, my father's gift came with no demands or expectations. It was simply an acknowledgement and an open door should I choose to walk through it. 2 months after Lily's birth, I received a carefully worded email from Amanda. She had broken off her engagement to Tyler after discovering he was already married with children in another state. The scandal had apparently rocked our hometown, with my mother bearing the brunt of the gossip since she had so publicly endorsed him. "I should have listened when you tried to set boundaries," Amanda wrote. "I've spent my whole life believing Mom's version of everything, including who you are. I think I need to figure out who I am without her influence. Maybe someday we can talk." I responded with a simple, "I hope you find your path," and attached a single photo of Lily. It wasn't forgiveness exactly, but it was an acknowledgement that we were both products of a dysfunctional family system. My mother predictably reached out when the embarrassment of Amanda's failed engagement became too great to bear alone. Her message was a masterpiece of non-apology filled with phrases like "unfortunate misunderstandings" and "family should stick together in difficult times." She suggested we put the past behind us so Lily could benefit from family connections. After careful consideration and discussions with James, I responded with clear boundaries. "I'm open to rebuilding our relationship," I wrote, but only with acknowledgement of past patterns and a commitment to change. "Lily deserves healthy relationships with people who respect her mother." My mother's reply revealed she was incapable of meeting these conditions. She portrayed herself as the victim of my unreasonable demands and suggested I was depriving Lily of family out of spite. The familiar manipulation tactics confirmed I had made the right decision in maintaining distance. 6 months after Lily's birth, my father contacted me directly rather than through my mother. He asked if he could visit alone to meet his granddaughter. After some hesitation, I agreed to meet him at a neutral location, a park near our home. He arrived with another handcrafted gift, a beautiful rocking horse, sized perfectly for when Lily would be a toddler. As he held his granddaughter for the first time, his hands trembling slightly, I saw genuine regret in his eyes. "I failed you," he said simply. "I let your mother's favoritism continue because confronting it would have meant confronting everything wrong in our marriage. It was cowardice." His honesty was refreshing after years of my mother's carefully constructed narratives. We talked for hours on that park bench, truly connecting perhaps for the first time. He had begun therapy, was considering a separation from my mother, and wanted to be part of Lily's life on whatever terms I deemed appropriate. "I'd like to try," I told him, but slowly and with continued honesty. We established a cautious relationship meeting every few weeks, always on my terms. His consistent respect for my boundaries gradually rebuilt trust between us. He never pushed for more than I was willing to give, and never attempted to broker peace with my mother. As Lily grew from newborn to infant, James and I created the family environment we had both always wanted. Our home became a place of acceptance and open communication. We documented her milestones not for social media validation, but for our own joy in her development. When Lily was approaching her first birthday, we decided to host a small celebration with our chosen family. No dramatic announcements, no hidden agendas, just genuine love for our daughter. The contrast to my baby shower couldn't have been more stark. Every person present was there because they truly cared about our family. My father attended somewhat nervously but warmly welcomed by James's parents, who had shown remarkable grace in sharing grandparent duties. As I watched Lily surrounded by people who loved her unconditionally, I felt a profound sense of healing. The cycle of conditional love and manipulation that had defined my childhood had been broken. My daughter would grow up knowing her worth was not tied to achievements or compliance, but was inherent and unchangeable. That evening, after all the guests had gone, and Lily was asleep in her crib, James and I sat on the porch swing watching fireflies dance across our yard. "Any regrets?" he asked softly, his arm around my shoulders. I considered the question carefully. About setting boundaries with my mother, not one. About wishing for a different kind of family for so many years, maybe. I wasted a lot of energy seeking approval that was never going to come. "And now," he prompted, "now I understand that family isn't defined by blood or obligation. It's built through respect, honesty, and love. We've created something beautiful here, something real." He kissed my temple gently. "We certainly have." As we sat in comfortable silence, I thought about the journey that had brought me to this place of peace. The baby shower disaster, painful as it was, had forced me to finally confront the truth about my family dynamics. In trying to hurt me, my mother had inadvertently set me free. I no longer measured my worth through her critical eyes. I no longer hoped for a reconciliation that would magically heal old wounds. Instead, I had learnt to value the authentic connections in my life and to protect my boundaries with those who could not respect them. The path of healing wasn't always smooth. There were still moments when old insecurities surfaced, when I questioned my decisions or worth as a mother. But those moments grew fewer and farther between as I embraced the truth that I was enough exactly as I was. My daughter would never have to earn love or compete for attention. She would grow up knowing her voice mattered and her boundaries would be respected. The painful legacy of my childhood would end with me. As I looked toward Lily's future, I felt not bitterness, but gratitude for the lessons learned and the strength gained. Sometimes the most painful experiences lead to the most profound growth. Sometimes letting go of what you thought you wanted opens the door to what you truly need. If you've ever had to choose between peace and toxic family relationships, I'd love to hear your story in the comments. Have you had to set difficult boundaries with loved ones? How did you find the strength to do what was right for you? Please like, subscribe, and share if this story resonated with you. Remember, you are worthy of relationships that bring joy rather than pain, and sometimes the family we choose is more precious than the family we're born into.